How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Sander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. I really appreciate you guys coming to us on this very special day after Black Friday, because you and I both know that yesterday was something else. So today, real quick, before we get started, I just wanted to give a special shout out to Timu because, we had to get these new headsets because the previous headsets were not up to standard. So now you're going to see improved sound quality. These are, what kind are they? Here they go. These are the Navia headset, which are like $20 on Well, they're $15, $15.99 or whatever, plus the shipping with the tax. This is about $20 to get it. Got here in like 2 days. So as you can see, they're working really well, and they have enhanced sound quality. So while you have the volume button on your laptop or computer, it has its own individual volume button on the controller, as on the headphone set as well, which is right here. And when you're able to crank that little bad boy up some, you can add more sound to your scenario or mute the mic. So if you wanted to turn off the mic because you had to talk to somebody, you would be able to hit that button right there. So I just wanted to mention that real quick before we got started on the show. Today we're going to be talking about making money in Brazil. Now, we were talking about money in Romania yesterday. We're going to be talking about Dubai next week. I told you guys that some of these countries that have been popping up on the show, showing us some love. I was going to be talking about these guys and how well you can actually make money in those countries as a foreigner. So Americans, if you want to go out there and go and make you some bread, let me tell you something. There's business all over the world now. And with our new economy starting up in 35, 45 days, with our new economy going up in here, I want to make sure that y'all know that you could be making money all over the place. Instead of sitting over here twiddling your thumbs working for somebody else, you could be starting up your own business and making yourself successful somewhere else, as well as building up your own business here in America, where you have businesses all over the world. Because as I showed you in Romania, that you have situations where you actually can have offshore funds that are non-Romanian funds being forwarded to Romania and not be taxed. You can have offshore funds from America that are not taxed by America. And then also you can have in some countries like Japan, you might have a situation where you have some tax exemptions from the untaxed revenue. So if your American business is in Japan and Romania, that international business may end up in a situation where you don't have to pay taxes anywhere. Or if you're paying taxes, the only place you're paying taxes is in the United States. And the expenses of the business offshore is offset by the profits made onshore, which then gives you the ability to move money around and make money for you, which is how the top 1% stays in the top 1%. And for those of you that want to become part of the top 1%, let's dive into some of the challenges exploring Brazil and why we need to be looking at Brazil as one of those next big opportunities for American business owners. Also, if you guys see that there is a link in the comment section, if you guys approve that, Mike approved the camera, you can come in real time and we'd be able to bring you up onto the show and you can put your 2 cents in. You do have to be over the age of 18 to jump in and start discussing things because, it's an adult podcast. But if you want to get your comments across in real time, by all means, throw down. And I see you in the green room here. And if I see you in the green room here and you look like you're grown and you're not about a shenanigans, and I'll bring you up on. You can also do special shout outs to your friends and family, which is also a thing. But we expect all comments made on the podcast and in the comment section to be reasonably appropriate, or those comments will be removed and you will be removed. So let's just keep it pleasant, because we are an open-minded, open forum podcast where we do a lot of debates about a lot of different things. But as of late, we've had this short trend about business and finance, because you can't be in a capitalist regime and not know about how to make yourself financially successful. So I said, well, let me be at the forefront of this tidal wave of madness that is going to be financial success, and be one of the first ones to start telling you guys about all of the different opportunities that have been open and the other ones that will be opening up, so that you guys can know where to put your money at. Because as money starts making money for some people, others are going to just be making money for other people. I want to be one of the ones that you're making money for. So let me just let you know where the money is at. So when it comes to expanding business operations, Many entrepreneurs are overlooking the vibrant markets that's ripe for the taking, which is Brazil, a country with a rich culture and stunning natural beauty and a population of over 212 million people, which is a little bit more than America, because America is riding around that wave of like 157 million people. Brazil presents a wealth of entrepreneurial opportunities that is simply too good to pass up. Many American businesses and the owners of these businesses may be hesitant to venture into Brazilian markets, and I understand why. I mean, there's concerns about language barriers, complex bureaucracies, and cultural differences. Some may think that doing business in Brazil is a daunting task, but trust me, it is not as intimidating as it seems. I'm sure some of you are thinking, isn't Brazil known for its corruption and political instability, or aren't there language barriers and cultural differences that would make it difficult to penetrate the market? These are valid concerns, but let me tell you, they are not insurmountable. Some of the things you got to think about with foreign business in Brazil is that foreign individuals can establish or hold interests in Brazilian companies, provided they meet specific requirements, including obtaining Cadastro de Peso Fiscal CPF number. And this is necessary for various transactions and ownership registrations. You have certain industries that may have restrictions for foreign ownership, particularly in sensitive sectors like media, transportation, and healthcare. But there's always the ability for you guys to dive into real estate. Typically, in certain countries that have restrictions on ownership, such as like the Philippines, which we haven't gotten into the Philippines yet, but just for the sake of when we start talking about foreigners owning things in the Philippines, a business that wants to own real estate must have 60% ownership with a Filipino residence. So you have to find somebody, make them a partner, and then have them have 60% ownership of the business. Now, if you go to to the Philippines and you find you a partner, fellas, and you marry her and you make your wife your partner in the company, and she's got 60% ownership, and she, for the most part, follows your instructions, then you're able to help her become more financially successful. And for the most part, she's going to go along for the ride, because, I mean, you're going to be teaching her things that she didn't know. She's going to be more cooperative than an American woman. And that means that you guys can make money together. Now, as long as you don't do anything that deliberately pisses her off, she's not going to tank your business. If you're building up the type of business that's going to allow her children to have generational wealth, she's going to be more satisfied with the fact that you are going to make her and the lineage that she creates successful. You're more than likely going to be able to control the whole business, but legally, she has 60% ownership of the business. For those of us that are in our older ages, not too much caring who owns what, as long as we're making money, make money for us. And we've got us a cooperative business partner. So just take that into consideration. Even if you're going to Brazil and they have certain restrictions, some of those restrictions might be that some of the locals might have to have more authority over the company than the foreigner to prevent any misdeeds where foreign nations can come over and take over their particular market, because they have the financial wealth and backing to do so. Now, we have some common legal structures for foreign businesses, including limited liability companies, their LTDAs, and corporations, which is SAs. And the choice structures impacts liability, taxation obligations, and operational flexibility the same way that it does in America. And establishing a branch of foreign company requires authorizations from Brazilian governments, making subsidiaries a more common choice due to fewer regulation hurdles. So if you're trying to start up a little small, like individual domestic company that's foreign owned, domestic operated, it might be less difficult to do than for you to have an international business set up over there. However, regardless of how you work the paperwork, you can still get you a business set up in another country. You just have to go through the guidelines. Now, I can tell you that before you get your plane ticket and fly over to another country to start setting up a business, you could be doing a lot of your research here in America. You could be talking to the consulates, you could be talking to the embassies, you could be reaching out to a lot of places, asking a lot of questions and getting a lot of answers that'll lead you to a lot more questions. And once you've set up your first business overseas, the same way once you set up your first business in America, it is not as difficult the second, third, fifth time around. And you actually can get a business visa when you decide to travel to countries where you're starting to establish a business, where they may give you up to a year or longer to get your business set up, which is a pretty long vacation. However, if you are going to go out there to set up a business, you can take the longest vacation you'd like to have while you're spending all of that time, or not all of that time, but the majority of that time, trying to find out where you're putting your business at, who you're networking with, and what certifications you have to have. But you also have to remember that if you're going to spend a year in another country and you still are going to have the standard of living maintained in America, you've got to be making a significant quantity of money, because your standard of living in America still has to be maintained while you're paying for a separate standard of living in another country, whether it's Brazil or the Philippines or anything to that effect, which means that this is going to be more capable of being done by the average man that's making over 100,000 or 200,000 a year. Because if your standard of living is under 100,000 a year, you're going to be spending 40 or 50,000 a year in another country. You're probably going to have at least 150,000 a year that's not being invested, where you have about 50,000 a year to spend in another country to get the business established. Now, the cost to set up a business in Brazil can range from $3,000 to over $10,000, depending on the complexity of the business and the legal requirements. And the incorporation process typically takes 60 to 90 days, which means that if you're going to create a business in Brazil, you're going to be there for at least 3 months. Well, you're probably going to be there for at least 6 months. And one of the reasons why you're probably going to be there for at least 6 months is because first you got to get there, then you got to find a translator, then you got to then you got to figure out who you got to talk to and get everything situated. And then while you're putting the paperwork together and checking boxes, some time is passing. But the application process to fill everything out and get everything legitimate is still going to take you about 90 days. So you still have to wait the 90 days plus the delays with communication, the lack of communications, the lack of transportation, knowing your way around, who to check in with, stuff to that effect. And you're still going to be, because where you're going to put the business, you're going to be trying to figure that part out. If you didn't already know what kind of business you were building before you got there, it's going to take you longer to figure out which one is less difficult to establish out there. But if you answer all of these questions or most of these questions before you go, you're typically going to be there at least 90 days. So talk about a 6-month vacation, 3 months on business, 3 months on pleasure. You can still go over there on a business visa. Now, engaging in local experts can streamline the process, which means that if you can find somebody who knows what they're doing and they've done what you're already trying to do, they can help make things faster. So it's not just what you know, it's also who you know. Because you can know how to run a business, you can know how to set up a business, but they might know how to do it faster and more effectively in Brazil on a legal platform, which is the most important part. And this will ensure the compliance with Brazilian laws, because just because we're Americans doesn't mean that we can go to another country and break their laws because we're Americans. It doesn't work that way. Our rights and our freedoms as American citizens, it gives us a privilege to disrespect ourselves and disrespect each other, is not the same rights and privileges in another country. So while we can stand on principle, because in America it's our constitutional right to be assholes, at the same time, in Brazil, that might put you into a jail cell. So you got to make sure that you know what the local laws are, especially those of you that like to travel Second Amendment style. It is a constitutional right in America. It is not a constitutional right in other countries. So you have to contact those countries and find out if you can take it. And if you can take it, how must you take it? And if you can have it on the plane and you're going to fly out there with it, but you got to turn it in because you can't have it there, then you have to fly out there with, you have to notify them that you're flying out there with it. And then they're going to tell you where you're going to go with it so that you can have it with you at all times while you're on American soil. But while you're not on American soil, you've got to give it up. So, and which means you got to stay in touch with your paperwork, because when you call yourself going to collect your property, if you don't have the paperwork to reclaim your property is gone. So you might want to get the documents, take some screenshots of your documents and upload them into an email. And because if something happens to your cell phone, you got to be able to log into your email in another country and be able to say, look, these are the documents right here, print them out and recover all of your property. Yeah, likewise, photo identifications and everything like that. While it's not having a photo of your photo identification doesn't really help you if you need physical identification. But if you have a photo of your photo identification that came up missing, you can show them what the photo identification card looks like, what the serial numbers were on the photo identification card that got stolen, and they may be able to help you a little bit better with identifying who you are. Because if you have some type of proof of who you are, if all of your legitimate documents comes up missing, some type of documentation that shows who you are, that makes it a lot easier for you to be able to prove that you're at least an American citizen and get back to the embassy and get back to the United States. So before we go down that road, let's talk about how Brazil's diverse economy is going to offer opportunities in agriculture, energy, and technology the same way Romania was doing. So fintech is going to be one of those things. And I've talked about fintech a couple times in the past few weeks, and fintech might actually be a specific topic of discussion one day, that we're just going to have to really get into fintech and really dive down deep into what fintech is and how fintech affects technology and technology advancements. But other sectors outside of fintech are some of the areas of technology that Brazil is focused on. And the country's natural resources and climate also provide unique advantages for agricultural investments because of the incentives that are available there. Foreign businesses may face challenges such as high entry costs and complex regulatory compliance, and skill shortages in the labor market, and navigating bureaucracies and the process of the bureaucratic bureaucracies in order to kind of get things started. When you're trying to go over there and do certain things, it's like, for example, you can grow weed in America now, but you might not be able to do that over there. So it really depends on what you're trying to do over there versus who's got the skill set to do it over there. Because you as the business owner can go over there and set it up, but who's going to work the business? So if you're trying to find people who's got the skills in the company that you're trying to build, you might not be able to find the talent that you're looking for in that area. You might have to make the talent, especially if you're doing stuff like real estate, buying viable properties. You have to be able to go over there and know what kind of properties you're looking for. And then you have to be able to teach other people how to find those properties so that those people can then aid you in finding those properties. And then you have to have the capabilities of being able to afford that property, build that property up, and then put that property into a income-bearing scenario. In order for you to do that, you can't just have 2 or 3 people running around saying, look, spend money on property. Look, spend money on property. They actually have to do the analysis and say, well, we could probably turn a profit off of this one. This is how much it's going to cost for us to turn a profit. Do we have that much money? Then this is how much money is coming in from the other properties. Because we got to cover our own salaries. Is there enough money here to do this and do that and do the other at the same time? Sometimes development costs we might not be able to afford. If we're trying to get investors, we might have to start up an investment portfolio where people can invest in the business first, and then we take the investment capital and put it into the businesses. I mean, the development. Some people might decide to develop an offshore REIT. You're building REITs. You might be able to get in there and start getting that stuff together. It's a very complex scenario. And the fact is that the more difficult that it is to operate, the more successful that it can be, but it's harder to start up. It's a lot of wheels to turn in order to make one spin, but it is still possible. If you're building local partnerships, this is going to be crucial for success in the Brazilian market. because having in-country presence can help mitigate some of the challenges. So if hiring foreign national companies, these hiring the foreign nationals, these companies must apply for appropriate work visas and resident permits before employees enter Brazil. And the type of visa depends on the employee's role within the company. So you also have this ability to start up the business, have it as like a foreign domestic style business, but then put some locals into the business so that they would be able to run the business for you, and then have day-to-day operations by the local nationals. Now, I can tell you that when the boss is coming back into the country, that is a prestigious feeling to have when you fly back into Brazil to check and see how the business is operating. If you have a group of people that are dedicated to your success. However, you also have to make sure that you're hiring a group of people that is dedicated to your success, because you don't want to put a bunch of people there and then they burn the building to the ground and run off with whatever assets that you had, because they're going to have access to the company's funds and the company's overhead and the company's reputation. So you got to make sure that you're finding the right people. And that's one of the reasons why some countries that are offering business visas usually offer a year or longer, because you've got to be able to stay there long enough to trust these people for you to fly back home and get some stuff done. So there's another misconception, and that we're busting myths right now. We have another misconception that Brazil is only good for exporting raw materials, which couldn't be further from the truth. The country has been thriving in manufacturing and a highly developed service industry, and an increasingly sophisticated consumer base that's hungry for innovative products and services, which means that we could do more exporting to Brazil if we knew what the market needed over there, or desired, because there's two different types of market. You have the need-based market, which is going to be more incentivized by the consumer, and then you have the want-based market that is going to be incentivized by impulse control, or the lack of impulse control. The lack of impulse control generates probably a little bit more revenue when money is higher, when the accessibility of revenue is higher. But need-based, it's like people will pay extra money for milk because they feel like they need milk. People will pay extra money for bread because they feel like they need bread. So when you start talking about the difference between buying a microwave to cook food versus buying a WWE title to be the next John Cena in your own mentality, I mean, truth is, impulse buying sometimes is overruled by the bare necessities. But as long as you're selling the bare necessities as well as impulse buying, you've got you a balanced market there. So you just got to figure out what they need versus what they want, and try to provide both. The Brazilian government provides fiscal incentives to promote investment in specific sectors such as innovation, exports, health, education, and environmental impacts, which means that those of you that are diving into real estate, you can go over there and you can start building medical facilities, educational facilities, and anything that improves the impact of environment. So any renewable resources, dams, windmills, like we were talking about yesterday, the Edison materials, being able to develop technological companies that are going to focus on the materials that make environmentally friendly equipment. Any stuff related to that. And then if you are providing jobs to the locals to operate those businesses, that also makes it even better. And as I said, if we were to, instead of sending Americans over on a work visa, we would actually hire Brazilians to run the company, then all we would have to do is just fly back on a regular basis and check on the company. Now, the National Development Bank, BNDES, offers subsidies, and these subsidized interest rates are going to be for priority projects. So micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises can benefit from lower interest rates and extended payment periods based on their gross revenue. So this is going to be like a working capital loan. So for those of you who are familiar with working capital loans in big business, that the amount of money that you're making every month, a percentage of that can be held, set aside to pay back working capital loans. So working capital loans are not the same as a regular business loan or a line of credit loan or a personal guarantor loan. A personal guarantor loan is going to be based on your own personal credit. You're guaranteeing the loan even if the company flops. That's not what we're talking about. A regular business loan is going off of the business's credit. And if the business flops, the business is responsible for that when they're liquidating their assets. And a working capital loan is going to be one of those like lines of credit where they're going to offer you $50,000 to $100,000, where that $50,000 to $100,000 is sitting there as a debt. You spend as much as you want out of it, put as much as you want back out of it, and that amount is there for you to circulate through for the duration of time that working capital loan is there. Well, actually, that's not a working capital loan. That's a line of credit loan. So they give you a line of credit loan, and they give you a specific amount of money that you have access to. You borrow against that money and you put it back and you pay interest on it for the duration of time that you have that line of credit loan. But a working capital loan is the amount of revenue that you receive on a monthly basis. Out of that, a percentage of it is going to go towards payments for a loan. Now, a working capital loan is typically in America like 18 months, 24 months at the most. But in Brazil, if they're going to offer you reasonable interest rates and longer loan times, they may do 24 to 36 months on a working capital loan and offer you some lower interest rates, which will allow you to borrow money and then pay for it out of your profits and make a big purchase now instead of financing the item and making monthly payments on the finance, which will cost you more money on the finance than what you would on the working capital loan. So these are the things that you have to analyze to make your business better when you start going to other countries and trying to make things work out for you. And you have to see what all is available before you go. Some things you're not going to be able to get the details to until you get there, but a lot of things you can get the gist of it before you go, so that you kind of have an idea as to what questions you want to ask and what answers you need to get so that you can get to the location that you're trying to get to with being successful. Brazil has established special economic zones, such as Manaus free trade zones, which offers tax exemptions and reduced tariffs to attract foreign investors. Now, these trade zones are going to be really good for you guys to get yourselves into when you start dealing with investments, but you also have other areas, just like in Romania, where you're dealing with, if you're in real estate, low-income housing developments, you're going to be able to get some incentives to redevelop or extend lower income housing developments to give more affordable housing to the lower income, because no matter what country has the richest people in it, every country has the poorest people in it. And anybody who's focusing on if you have a Robin Hood mentality, everybody's going to give you incentives to come over there and Robin Hood your way through their mentality. So, or their country. So instead of you going in there and just focusing on the top 1%, if you go in there and focus on the bottom 99, then more people are going to be like, hey, I'll give you money to do that. And that's how because that's going to be the more common folk. There are more common folk than there are wealthy folk. So these zones are designated to facilitate industrial and service companies, particularly for those focused on exporting products or providing IT. So you can get you a lot of deductions when you're doing technical companies. The government has regional development programs that grant tax incentives for companies establishing operations in less developed areas, as I just finished mentioning. So examples include Amazon Development Program, which is SUDAM, offers exemptions for certain taxes for businesses in the Amazon region. And this isn't the store Amazon. This is the location Amazon. There is a Northeast Development Program, PRODETUR, which provides tax exemptions for companies setting up in the Northeast. You have foreign investors in infrastructure projects that may receive tax incentives and peripheral financing. And this includes investing aimed at transportation, energy, and telecommunications. So you could build cars, you could build cell phones, you could build phone towers, you can build renewable resources like solar power, batteries, or solar power systems. Because I know that Romania was one of my fans was from Romania, talking about how in the lesser developed areas that they don't have electricity, they're not connected to the grid, they don't have accessibility to running water in most areas. They got to go get their water out of a well. Their resources are not up to standard. Now you went over there and you started redeveloping some stuff, and you're like, hey, we can renewable. You got solar panels. Your house isn't covered by trees. You can get you some electricity. You get you a battery pack and store the electricity. And now you got lights in the day and lights at night. You don't have to worry about a grid. You're on your own. You're doing good. There's that. And then you have telecommunications. You have phone lines, cell phones. You're able to communicate with one another. You're able to call for help when you need it. Like you can really find ways to get in there. One of the things that people do is they find a demand. And then after they find that demand, they put the extra mile into trying to meet that demand. And that's one of the things that I encourage people to try to do, is to try to meet the demand in other countries if you're trying to start up other businesses. Now, they have it in Brazil. The Program for Investment Partnerships is PPI, and this enhances collaborations between the government and private sector for public infrastructure projects. So you can just invest in some of these companies. You don't necessarily have to go over there and start up your own business. You can just invest in some of these companies. And companies that are investing in research and development can benefit from tax deductions and credits under Brazil's Innovation Incentive Program. So if you just go over there to look at what they've got going on, you're still over there on business. And then you find the ones that you want to invest in, and then you just start investing your money into it. So instead of wasting time building a business from the ground up and going through all the trouble of trying to find people to run that business, you could go over there with the ability to write a blank check or a large investment into an already established company to aid that company in its ability to advance itself and let the company run itself, where you have a contract with them to receive compensation for the stuff that they do. So for instance, you have firms that can receive income tax reductions of up to 50% for R&D investments. So it like the US is taxing us like 20% or so up until Trump comes in and takes over. If you're getting 50% deductions on that, you're now looking at potentially paying at max 10% towards the 100% of the revenue that you receive off of your investment. So the dividends that are paid back to you, half of it is not even taxed, which is magnificent. Or half of the taxation rate is lowered, which is even more magnificent. So you're still looking at the pluses of this. Now, I'm not seeing the same tax exemption that Romania had, where if you reinvest into the R&D developments, that you may get complete tax exemptions on that. But I am also understanding that if you talk to the local consulates, you could be able to find ways where, if you are calculating investments as a loss, that reinvestments can still be written off outside of the dividends that are taxed. Now, this means that you're not walking over there trying to start your business from the ground up. You're walking over there with a briefcase full of cash if you didn't get robbed by the U.S. government on your way out. And then you're going to be able to fly over there and drop that briefcase full of cash somewhere and have that briefcase full of cash start make money for you. And since the U.S. dollar is valued higher than the Brazilian dollar, that you can go over there and you can put down $100,000, and that's almost like putting down $1 million. You could probably put down, because think about it, starting up a business over there is between $3,000 and $10,000 US dollars. So you could be able to go over there with 100,000 US dollars, which means you got to have 100,000 US dollars, and you'd be able to drop that 100,000 US dollars into one of those R&D development companies, and then you'd be like, bam. And you just got to find some that's got high returns, whether they're doing quarterly or annually with their returns. If they have pretty high returns, 5 or 10%, you're looking at handing them a bunch of money, and while they're going to be issuing it to you in Brazilian currency, if you establish a Brazilian bank, then they would be able to pay you on a regular basis. And whenever you go to Brazil, you're living financially free. You also can have the money go into a bank that you have in Brazil, and then have that bank that's in Brazil wire transfer the money into a bank that you have in a different country, which means that you would have tax-free income. You could also do ACH transfers from one bank to another, which is a check transfer that they normally don't charge you fees for, but you might have international fees depending on how things work out, where one entity has to send money to another entity, where you're able to get your money from one place to the next. But you're also looking at the fact that while countries like Romania aren't going to tax you for income from outside of the country, some countries aren't like that. So you just got to check before you start moving money around, actually what's accessible to you versus, what you're probably going to have to pay to do. Now you're dealing with another scenario we're about to start talking about, which is bonded warehouses. And these bonded warehouses allow businesses to store goods without paying import duties until the goods are released into the domestic market. And that's a very awesome thing to do when you're drop shipping, because if you've got your product, you flew it in, you're not paying for the import tax until after you start selling the product. This can significantly reduce upfront costs for foreign companies. So while you're getting your startup phase going, if you have a non-degradable product, something that's not going to dissipate over time, you have a non-edible, you fly it over there, you hold it over there, and then when you start releasing it to the public, that's when they tax you on it. Gives you a little bit of time to get your affairs in order before you start being taxed on stuff. Now, approved investment projects may qualify for total or partial exemptions from duties and taxes on imported capital equipment, which encourages foreigners and the investment of foreigners in manufacturing. So if you're trying to start something out there, there are ways to get out there and get it done. So what makes Brazil such an attractive destination for American business owners? So for starters, it's got a massive consumer base that's eager to buy from international brands. Most countries want American products. America wants not American products. That's just how the world turns. The country has a number of favorable trade agreements, which makes it easier for American companies to export their goods and services. And let's not forget the investment incentives. The Brazilian government offers a range of perks to attract foreign investment, from tax breaks to streamlined bureaucracy. So Brazil is also a key player in Mercosur trading, the Mercosur trade bloc. Look now, y'all. When I wrote that down, I was like, yeah, I can handle that. And then this company here, it gives American companies access to the market of over 250 million consumers across South America, which is more than just Brazil, because Brazil is, look, y'all going to be looking at how this is almost like joining a membership, so that you can just be like, hey, I want to sell. And they're like, oh, go sell to those people over there. And with the rise of e-commerce in Brazil, which a lot of companies are starting to get into that. And that's one of the reasons why we're going to be talking about BRICS coming soon, because BRICS is going to be a up and coming capital that 5 or 7 countries are sharing in order to increase their footing in world business. And it's never been easier to reach consumers all over the country, much less all over the world. But let me tell you real quick. Let's take as an example the story of an American company that specialized in eco-friendly cleaning products. And they saw an opportunity in the Brazilian market, which has a growing middle class that's increasingly concerned about the environment. They adapted their products to meet local needs and partner with a local distributor. And within a year, they had conquered a significant share of the market. So today, they're one of the top players in the Brazilian cleaning products market with a loyal customer base that spreads their product throughout the world. And their brand is actually becoming well known in a lot of different places. And that's not an isolated example. Countless other American companies have significantly made success and expanded into Brazil, and they are reaping the rewards of that. So, what can we learn from these success stories? Well, Brazil is a market that's ripe for taking, and you're looking at the requirement to get into this particular company is going to require the willingness to take that leap and the adaptability to be able to overcome the hurdles and the obstacles that are involved with taking that leap, and to be open to learning about the local culture and business environment. You can't just do it the way you used to do it back home. You got to do it the way they do it out there. Nevertheless, entering the Brazilian market offers significant potential for growth, but requires a thorough understanding of local regulations, costs, and operational challenges. By leveraging local expertise and navigating the regulatory landscape effectively, foreign businesses can capitalize on Brazil's diverse economic opportunities while minimizing risks. In addition to all of that, Brazil presents a range of incentives designed to attract foreign businesses across various sectors. While there are significant opportunities, potential investors should also be aware of the regulatory environment, taxation, complications, and a lot of the other complexities and regional variations that may affect their operations. Engaging in local experts can help navigate these challenges effectively while maximizing the benefits of the available incentives. And this is going to prevent you guys from having extensive losses. So Brazil has a significant quantity of business established out there that I've been telling you guys about for the longest period of time. So I'm hoping that you guys are able to go out there and go and take a look and see what they've got to offer. I want to make sure that you guys remember that you join me for the explorations of why Brazil could be the next big opportunity for American business owners. And be sure to share your thoughts in the comments below, and also check out some of the other videos on international business strategies that we've been talking about over the past couple of weeks. You will definitely find yourself in a position to say, dang, I did not know all of that stuff was there. And you're going to learn a whole lot more things than what we were originally trying to put out there. But I'm definitely trying to make sure that you have all of the tools and resources that you need to be successful, because in this particular day and age, for those of you that are trying to go out there and get you a business established, Romania and Brazil are two of the underdogs that nobody really talks about, that you guys can go and turn yourselves an extra profit in and make yourselves more financially successful. So, and while you're out there, because the culture is phenomenal and the people are more pleasant there, you could also go out there and potentially find you a partner if you don't already have one. So, fellas, Passport Bros, you're not just out there on pleasure, you're out there on business, guys. We're going to go out there and we're going to make it do what it do. And I strongly recommend that you guys get out there and try to figure out what can be done in the markets that you are trying to get yourselves into, because that is where you would be able to make the most financial success, and having international businesses some way, shape, or form. Because the registration for international business in the country that you're doing business in versus the way that you register international business with the United States is not necessarily required to be the same thing. You just have to remember that as you get the paperwork together, that your base company in America recognizes it for what it is. And if there are any hurdles or any loopholes, because every country has a loophole, if there are any hurdles or any loopholes that you can get through, then by all means, try to take advantage of those loopholes so that you can accomplish everything that you're trying to accomplish. And once your business gets off the ground, the paperwork is the cost of doing business. So you can't say that I didn't tell you. We've touched base on at least 3 countries in the past 2 weeks. And next week, we're going to be talking about Dubai. So you're not going to be able to tell me that you did not know, and you're not going to be able to tell me that you could not do. And as I get it done, I'm going to be telling you guys I told you so, because I sat here and I explained to you how to get it done and what you do with that information. Because the only details that I could probably give you that I haven't given you yet is which person do you want to call, which location you want to go to, what time of day are they available for a conversation. It's probably the only details, but if you do your research, you'll be able to find the answers to those questions for yourself. So with the plethora of shows that we've done recently that is related to the ability to expand your own companies, make a walking business something worth having, why is it have you not taken the steps to find out how you can make your dream come true? Because in America, there's 155, 158 million people in America, and not everybody has the same ideas. Not everybody has the same dreams, goals, and ambitions. And with that being said, not everybody is sitting over here thinking about, the exact same business opportunity. So each business opportunity is different, and each business opportunity has its own obstacles. And we can work through it together if you have a specific business goal or opportunity that you want to follow through with, and we can kind of hash out what you need to know and what you don't know. And then we can try to get into what you can benefit from with the incentives that are available in whatever country you're trying to do business in. But with the different variations of countries you can do business in, and different fields that you can do business in, and the different ways that you can do the business, whether you're doing business as an investor, whether you're doing business as a brick and mortar company with locals, or if you're going to have a brick and mortar company that's going to be operated by foreigners, all of these things change the what ifs and the hypotheticals, which change the answers. And when you change the questions, you got to get new answers. So with that being said, I got to tell you guys, I did not go through the details that I went through with Romania, because Romania had a whole lot more going on. Brazil has some pretty straightforward policies and procedures, and Brazil has a pretty decent line of opportunities, and some countries are going to have more incentives than others. However, and in most fields, however, you will find that the majority of the countries that we talk about are going to be in investment, and they're going to be investing in research and development, technology, and renewable resources. So just think about this. If your business is not in renewable resources, just remember the one business that is always going to be available in every country: real estate. So if all else fails, build rental properties and you're good. You may have to start up a company where you are paying somebody a percentage of your profits in order for you to acquire the property and rent the property out, where all they've got to do is just check boxes and say, yep. And both of y'all get paid, because there's a thing called the face of the company. The face of the company doesn't do squat. The face of the company represents the company, which allows the company to do business the way the company wants to do business. And then the people who turn the pages behind the curtains, those are the people who are running the business the way the business needs to be run. If your face of the company is making enough money for them not to interfere with your operations, as long as you're not doing anything unethical, the face of the company will allow you to run through it the way you want to run through it. And then the business still goes the way you want it to go. And then your face of operations just gets paid to be there. so that you can do the things that you normally would not have done have you not had this face over your operations. That's why people do it. We see it in politics. We see it in a lot of places. So I wanted to make sure that you guys knew about that. And that's pretty much all I have for you guys for today. So one of the things I wanted to make sure that y'all do is that y'all like and subscribe. Make sure that y'all join the membership, because we got a lot more things coming up. We have our members only tomorrow on Sunday, and then we have our bricks discussion on Monday. We got a lot of things lined up already. I've got to make sure that I got the stuff set up for you guys so that you guys can enjoy it. But just note, we've got a 7-day-a-week operation going, and we are live typically around 9 Eastern, 8 Central, 5 Pacific. We typically try to kick it off before half past the hour, but we still here every night of the week, and we try to give you close to an hour show. We haven't been giving you one with some of the shorter topics, but we do the best we can to give you close to an hour show at minimum, and most of the time we succeed with that. And then there are other times where we can give you a 2 to 3 hour show based on the details, information, and interaction with the fans. So never feel that you can't interact with us on a podcast, because questions and answers are always here. And if you got really good questions, we tend to put a lot of the better questions up on the channel. So those end up in shorts, reels, and then you'll be able to see your questions up later on in the day, later on down the week. So take into consideration everything that I've told you. Make sure that you throw us some special thanks, special emojis, and stuff to that effect. Kick off some donations to the podcast. They got gifts out now where they're competing against TikTok that hasn't gone back onto the market yet, and those individuals will be able to donate little gems or something like that to the channel, and those donations end up going to the content creator eventually after YouTube takes half. So he send me 10, I'm gonna get 5. That's the cost of doing business, but support the podcast, and as the T-Mobile fiber comes about, we'll be able to enhance ourselves with T-Mobile fiber based off of contribution from the fan base. But until then, we're going to be operating off of 5G status with our trusty mobile hotspot that is hanging on by the thread of the teeth. So as I say on a normal basis, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm also going to keep asking y'all to make it make sense. So ladies, make it make sense. Special shout out to Red Void on Omni 81. Red Void's in Romania. Omni 81 is in Brazil. I told you guys I was going to cover you guys before the new year. The new month. The new month is tomorrow. I covered Brazil and Romania inside of November. Man of my word. If you guys have any questions that you want to ask me, I can run a show about it. Throw it into the comment section after the show. I'll take a look at it, and if it's appropriate, then I'll definitely run a show about it. For the rest of the fellas, I really appreciate you coming to the show and showing me support. Thank you for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And you guys have a good night.